you know, the death rate, I think we're up to about 200 Australia-wide now, and but the government's very strict about what we can or can't do. So people can't come into work. So I've been working in the office with one other person, which is the maximum number of people we can have in our office, but everyone else is working remotely. Okay, shall I start my presentation now?
Sure, please.
Okay, let me just check that everyone can see my Zoom.
Just click on the share screen so you'll be able to share.
Okay, let me just have a look. So what did I just do wrong here? There, Zoom. So where do I find the Zoom part, the share screen? More. Okay, more.
At the bottom of the screen, share screen.
It says participants chat. I can't see the Zoom. Okay, I found the Zoom part, the share part. Sorry. Yep.
Yep.
Okay. And now, can you confirm that you can see my screen?
Yeah, we can see that. You can make it whole screen. Okay, yeah.
Okay, it's all good.
Yeah, all good. Yep.
Okay, well, once again, nice to meet everyone, and hello from Melbourne, Australia. So I'm the founder of Etiko Fair Trade. I should have actually apologised for my appearance. I think we've gone to the PowerPoint, but this is my COVID appearance. I haven't shaved for a few days, but I promise to do so once COVID, the pandemic, is over. So yeah, I'm the founder and owner of Etiko, which is it's a small fashion label which is based in Melbourne, Australia, which has been operating for more than 10 years. As Rafi mentioned, we've got a few certifications, including Social Traders, B Corp, and Fair Trade. I think you've been you understand what Fair Trade certification is, but I wasn't sure whether you have some understanding of B Corp or Social Traders. Rafi, do I need to explain what B Corp is?
Yeah, because can you please explain what are the authority and who are the authority and what they do? Because we'll be asking you questions. We'll be trying to know
okay, so
how to apply for.
Well, so fair trade is about our supply chain. So to making sure that the people who work in our supply chain, the farmers in our supply chain are being compensated fairly. But B Corp certification is more about the way we operate our business on a day-to-day basis, in particular what we do in Australia. It's like fair trade accreditation for a business. And Social Traders Certified is accreditation that you are doing something for the wider community, and that the majority of your profits go back into creating your purpose. So, Nike might say that they're a good company because they donate a percentage of their profits to charities or whatever, but it doesn't make them a social enterprise because the majority of their profits don't do that, while the majority of our profits do that. Okay. So Etiko is a street fashion brand. So you've looked at our website. We do a range of products, mainly sneakers, but we also do a lot of t-shirts, hoodies, underwear. I'm trying to think what the equivalent mainstream brand. I'm sure you're all familiar with the Converse brand. So it's like Converse for people who care about their fellow human beings, who care about the environment, and who care about animals. So we're fair trade certified, we're organic certified, and everything we do is vegan. Now, these are important to me. These values are important to me, but they're also important to our customers. So there is a growing number of consumers around the world who are interested in fair trade, who are interested in organic, and are interested in vegan. It's certainly not mainstream. In Australia, I'd say about 5 to 10% of the Australian population tries to buy products which are vegan, organic, or fair trade. And the same must happen around the world, especially in the West, in North America, in Europe. So most of our customers are in Australia, but more and more of our customers are in North America. So about 30% of all the customers to our website are now from Canada and the United States. And that's where we're seeing a lot of growth for the Etiko brand. So these are some of the products that we sell. The only thing special about them, we're not claiming that they're better sneakers or more comfortable underwear or better hoodies, but we're just saying that they're made ethically and as eco-friendly as possible. And they are good quality. We try to make products which last. So I actually run 3 businesses. So Etiko, which is our street fashion brand, Jinta, which is our sports brand. It's a fair trade sports brand. And Etiko Merch, which is a service where we help other businesses and other brands with their supply chain. So our biggest customer in Australia is actually RMIT University, and we do most of the t-shirts, nearly all the hoodies, and the polo shirts that the staff at RMIT University wear. But you know, in Australia today, we got an order from Westpac Bank. A lot of small brands asked us to supply them with printed t-shirts, so it's a big part of our business. But 55% of our business is our Etiko fashion brand. Now, I should point out to you that I don't have a background in fashion. I started off as a high school teacher, and then as a college lecturer. I actually spent 5 years working as a college lecturer, working on remote Aboriginal communities in the Northern Territory. But I'm the son of migrants in Australia. So as Rafi would know, we have a lot of migrants living in Australia. My family originally came from Greece in the 1950s. Both my father came out to Australia when he was 19, and my mother was 17 years old when she came to Australia. And that's a photo of myself and my mother in front of one of the houses we lived when they were living in Melbourne. So when we were living in Melbourne. My grandparents were actually refugees, not to Australia. They left Turkey in the 1920s, and they moved to Greece as refugees. They were forced out of Turkey, and they lost everything, and they had to restart again when they went to Greece. And though my parents weren't they weren't political refugees, they were financial refugees, because life was very tough in Greece during the early 1950s. And they had to come to Australia to create some income for themselves. And they also sent money back to their families in Greece. As I said, I don't have a background in fashion, but I got interested in this industry because, firstly, my mother worked in the industry. She was what's called a home worker. She would actually sew garments in our house, and while in between raising 4 children. But that was very common in Australia during the 1960s. But when I was at university, I used to see photos like these quite often, and it used to upset me. These are photos of, I'm pretty sure this photo is one of a boy in India. This one is certainly in India. I actually met the photographer who took this photograph. These photos are of children in Uzbekistan, and this one is a photo of a child in Ghana. Now, I'm not sure how you feel, but these kind of things upset me. And when I was at university, I didn't have much money. As a university student, we don't. I certainly didn't have much money, and but I used to go into shops, into retail outlets, and ask them if they could prove to me that the sneakers they were selling or the clothing they were selling were free of child labour. And the reality is that most people had no idea. Most retailers had no idea and very little interest in finding out how their products were sourced. I'm pretty sure this photo on the top left-hand side is in Bangladesh. This photo is in India. This one is in Cambodia. So is this one here. So these are photos that were taken probably about 10 years ago. And about a few years ago, yeah, this is back in 2010, so more than 10 years ago, 11 years ago, I actually just quick Googled worker exploitation online, and I found these stories. Now you can see some of these headlines. Now you can see brands like Apple mentioned, and Adidas and Nike. And these are all brands that we all wear or own. I'm sure, sorry, I forgot how many people, you said there were about 60 people in the presentation today, Rafi. I'm sure most of us, if not all of us, have owned an Apple product or an Adidas product or a Nike product over the past, well, I mean, I know over the 20, 40 years that I've been a consumer, so since I've been working, I've bought all those products. So whether we like it or not, we're all part of the problem. If all of us look at the clothing that we wear, I'm sure we're all wearing products right now which has been made by people who've been exploited. And just in case you think this happened many years ago and doesn't happen now, these are just a couple of headlines from last month, actually this month. So this the story that slavery still exists. They used a photo of a Bangladesh-made T-shirt, but they weren't just talking about Bangladesh, they were specifically talking about India. But I'm pretty sure if you scratch below the surface, you'll find child labour in many countries, even in this day. And they were talking about slavery. In Australia, there's a big concern right at the moment about the exploitation of Muslims in China. And as you can see, that there's apparently, well, the statement was that nearly every fashion brand, every major fashion brand in the world, the big fashion brands, is implicated in supply chains in China which involve the exploitation of Muslims. So, for people who think that slavery, child labour, sweatshop labour is a thing of the past, don't kid yourself, it's still happening. Now, I've never had to talk to anyone in Bangladesh about the Rana Plaza tragedy, so I'm not going to go on about it. You know what happened. I'm sure it made the media in Bangladesh. But in Australia, so I should point out that the Rana Plaza tragedy was not the first industrial accident in the fashion industry, and it wasn't the last one either. There were plenty of disasters before the Rana Plaza, and but the difference with Rana Plaza was the size of the disaster. Before Rana Plaza, I'd heard of small factories burning where 10, 20, 100 people were killed or injured. And since then, there's been others in Pakistan. Earlier this year, there was a footwear factory burnt down, and there were about 100 workers were killed. And in Cambodia last year, there was a mass poisoning of workers in a footwear factory where about 500 workers were poisoned by poisonous fumes. It's just that the Rana Plaza was just so big, it was hard for the media to ignore it. But one thing that resulted from the Rana Plaza tragedy in Australia was the introduction of the Australian Ethical Fashion Guide, where all fashion brands in Australia were asked to supply information about their supply chains, and everyone was given a ranking, a score, from the least ethical to the most ethical. So this has been happening since 2013, since the Rana Plaza tragedy occurred. And for the first 4 years, only one fashion brand achieved an A+. Actually, two brands achieved an A+ for ethical production. And both those brands were my brands, Etiko and Jinta Sport. More recently, about 5 other fashion brands have started getting A+ as well, which is good to see. But that's 6 fashion brands, so 6 brands out of nearly 500 that have been audited have got an A+. And those brands are the ones that can prove that their workers get paid living wages, are working in safe conditions, are allowed to join unions, and are addressing gender bias in the factory. But the most important thing is being able to prove that you pay workers a living wage. I personally believe that unless a factory is paying workers a living wage, then they're not ethical. That's I'm not sure whether what you students would consider ethical, but for me, that's the bottom line. Now, I run a small business. I don't have a big auditing team like some big brands around the world do. So what I rely on these accreditations for my supply chain. So all of my supply chain is certified fair trade, except for one, which is in Sri Lanka, and we're working with them to become fair trade certified. But the factory we work with in Pakistan and India are both fair trade certified. As I mentioned, we're B Corp certified, and all of my suppliers are either GOTS certified or FSC certified. So because I'm a small business, I don't have a big team to do audits. So I'd rather pay these organizations to do the auditing for me, to prove that when we tell people that we're doing the right thing, that we can actually prove it. So a lot of brands who got caught using Rana Plaza had codes of conduct and had different accreditations. But reality is most of those accreditations don't mean much because they're more ticking boxes rather than thorough audits. It's hard to get fair trade certification, and it's harder to keep it. It's hard to get B Corp certification, and it's just as hard to keep it. That's why it means a lot to me. I should also point out to you that back in 2008, I actually applied for halal certification. I should have actually shared the screen, but we were the first, Etiko was actually the first halal certified fashion brand in the world. But we didn't continue with it because we didn't get much benefit out of being halal certified. Most of our products are actually produced in factories which employ Muslims. That's not the way we design it, just that's the way it is. In Pakistan, that's the case. And even in India, the factory we work with in Calcutta, about 30% of the workforce is actually Muslim. And we were able to show that halal, I'm not an expert in halal, but I was told that at the World Halal Forum that halal was more than just about the food you ate. It's also about the way you lived your life. And if you contributed to the exploitation of your fellow human being or damaging the environment, then that's haram. So we wrote a letter to the Australian Federation of Islamic Councils and explained to them we're actually making sure that workers, both Muslim and non-Muslim, were getting paid living wages. We were making sure that the workers were being treated fairly. We were making sure that there was no child labour in our supply chain. And we were making sure that we were making the most eco-friendly products in the fashion and footwear industries. Could we be considered halal? And as a result, we did get that halal certification. And if you remind me later, I'll show you the halal certification. Now, ethics and fair trade are becoming popular in the West. I don't know whether that's the case in Bangladesh. You could probably tell me later on. But there's different accreditations which sound like they're very similar to fair trade. But the most important thing I mentioned to you before for me was the issue of paying a living wage. And as you can see, that only the fair trade certification can guarantee that fair trade, that a living wage is actually paid to the workers. So there's WRAP, which a lot of Bangladesh factories are certified WRAP, Worldwide Responsible Apparel Program. You can see that there is no requirement for them to actually pay a living wage. Same with the Fair Labour Association and Fair Wear Foundation. Well, Fair Wear Foundation are required to pay a living wage, but there's no proof that they are. So we're B Corp certified. So the average score for B Corp certification is around 80 points, and with 100 points being the highest. So we scored 100 points. So we're not too far from the top. And we actually score a higher ranking than probably the best known B Corp brand in the world is Patagonia. And we actually score a better score than they do. Moving on. All the cotton that we buy comes from one group of farmers called the Chetna Organic Farmer Cooperative. And I've been working with this group of farmers in central India since 2007. When I started working with them, there was about 300 farmers in the cooperative. And the cooperative was actually started by a Dutch NGO who were worried about the high rate of suicide, the high suicide rate amongst Indian cotton farmers. A lot of the farmers had got involved with planting genetically modified cotton seed and had to borrow money to buy the seed and buy the fertilizer to grow the seed. And rather than making more money, they got themselves into big financial problems because they had to borrow money from the local loan sharks. And the only way they could get out of their debt was to commit suicide, basically. It was a very tragic story. I did see the reports, and if you Google suicide rate Indian farmers, you'll find that it's still actually happening right now. Anyway, we work with a group of farmers, the Chetna Organic Farmer Cooperative. They were the first cotton farmers to be certified fair trade in the world. And when I started working with them, there's 300 farmers. Now there's more than 7,000 farmers in the cooperative. And they're also now expanding into other crops. The reality is that the cotton industry is not the most stable. The price of cotton goes up and down. So now they're expanding into legumes, chickpeas and lentils, and that's providing them with extra income. I work with I work with factories in Sri Lanka, Pakistan, and in India. And I've been working with the same factories for nearly 10 years, actually. A couple of them are about 13 years. A lot of fashion brands tend to work with different suppliers, lots of different suppliers. I don't like that. I don't like doing that. I think if you're going to make if you're going to try to improve the lives of workers, you've got to stay working with that farm, that factory, year in, year out. And that way you can actually see the changes and monitor any changes. But from time to time, we've had problems with the factories. In Pakistan, we had a problem with the issue of gender bias, where the factory, when I first visited the factory, I was surprised by the lack of women working in the factory, and I realised that Pakistan is a patriarchal society, and that it's actually hard for women to travel from the villages to factories, and that the onus is on the male earning the income. But for fair trade consumers in Australia and around the world, they want to know that women are given the same opportunities as men are. And I raised the issue of Fair Trade International and told them that I was concerned about the lack of women working in the factory in Pakistan. And Fair Trade International did some investigations and basically suspended the license, the fair trade license of the factory in Pakistan until they proved that they were actually making every effort to employ women in the factory. And it took them about 4 months, and now you'll find women working in the same factory, in this factory as well. The women make up about 13% of the workforce, which is still not 50-50, but it's much better than what it was before. So I couldn't encourage the factory to make those changes unless they were getting business from us year in, year out. And that's why it's important to stick to your suppliers, not play one supplier off another. In Australia, the single biggest retailer of fashion in Australia has about 600 different suppliers, and they play them off against each other. You know, they'll go to a factory in China and say, look, or actually they might go to a factory in Bangladesh, which I know they've done, and tell them, look, if you don't do this, make these products at a cheaper price, then we'll go to our supplier in China. And they'll tell the Chinese, oh, if you don't do it at a cheaper price, we'll go to our supplier in Vietnam. We've never done that, and we never will. We expect our factories to tell us, we expect the factories in our supply chain to prove to us that they're paying their workers a living wage and that their workers are working in safe conditions and are being treated with respect. And we'll pay them the necessary price in order for them to be able to do that. Apart from making sure that workers in our supply chains are treated with respect and paid living wages, we're also concerned about the environmental impact of the fashion industry. In Australia, there was a television program last year which said that over 6,000 kilograms of fabric was thrown away in Australia every 10 minutes, which even to me, and I knew there was a problem with the amount of clothing was being thrown away, even I was shocked to hear that was that much. 6,000 kilograms every 10 minutes. Now, I'm sure you're aware of the environmental impact of the fashion industry on countries like Bangladesh, the amount of pollution that is pumped into the rivers, the amount of chemicals that are pumped into the environment, the amount of waste that comes with the fashion industry. So what we've started doing with our brand, with the Etiko brand, is we've started taking back our products. So when you finish wearing our shoes or our rubber thongs, we actually recycle them. And at the moment we're making, another company is actually making floor matting for us. And later this year, we'll actually start taking back all the clothing we ever sold. And they'll be repurposed into new thread. So, sorry, I should also point out, so we're talking about circularity. So Etiko, you've heard about fair trade, you've heard about sustainability. The next thing you'll hear about when it comes to sustainable fashion is circularity. And Etiko is one of the first circular fashion brands in the world. So the idea is that we try to minimize the amount of waste that's actually being created by our products. So what's beyond circularity, and that is to actually do something about improving the environment, not just reducing our negative impact, but doing something about positive for our environment. So from next month, when you buy an Etiko product, you'll contribute to the planting of one or more trees in East Timor initially. So I'm not sure whether you can see these photos. I hope you can see these photos. So we work with a group of farmers in East Timor to plant trees in their forests. So when Indonesia was running East Timor, a lot of the forests were destroyed and the timber was actually shipped to Indonesia. So the mountains were very barren, and so we're actually paying farmers to plant a tree and then look after that tree. If you can see on the left-hand side, they've started using a technology which involves putting a nail in every tree and actually tracking it and actually measuring it every year to make trees actually growing. So we pay the farmers approximately $1 to plant a tree, and then about 50 cents per year to look after that tree. And then after 10 years, they can cut the tree and resell it and sell the timber as long as they replace the tree with more timber, with more forest, sorry. I'm just mindful of the time because I know it's actually hard to sit listening to a presentation for as long as I've been talking. But just quickly, in Australia, the Australian government has become a signatory to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, as have nearly all the big companies in Australia and all the universities. So I'm not sure whether it's hard to understand. I was going to ask you if you can put your hands up if anyone's familiar with the UN Sustainable Development Goals. But through the fair trade system, we can address at least 10 of these goals through our supply chain. So a lot of organisations are coming to us and saying, "Can you help us achieve our goals? Can we use your supply chain to do that?" So when you buy an Etiko product, you're helping to achieve those goals. With Westpac is one of the biggest banks in Australia. It's in the top 4 banks. They've made a commitment to addressing the UN Sustainable Development Goals, and they've asked us to do face masks for them. RMIT University, like every university in Australia, and when Rafi was in Australia, he worked at La Trobe University, and La Trobe University is also a signatory to the UN Sustainable Development Goals. So, but unlike RMIT, they're actually not doing very much about it. They like talking about their commitment to the UN Sustainable Development Goals, don't actually do it. I'd be interested to see whether the University of Dhaka has actually become a signatory to the SDGs as well. But it's becoming important for a lot of corporations in Australia to show people that they do care. In Australia, about a year ago, the federal government introduced the Australian Modern Day Slavery Act. It's the third place in the world to do that. So the UK introduced the Modern Day Slavery Act, their Modern Day Slavery Act in 2015, I think. So basically in the UK, any company that turns over more than 50 million UK pounds has to prove that their supply chain is free of slavery. In Australia, it's over $100 million. So this is why a lot of universities now are impacted by this. A lot of banks are impacted. A lot of big corporations have to prove that their supply chains are slave-free. And once again, a lot of them are coming to Etiko and asking us to help them source clothing and products which are slave-free. It's a big opportunity for us as a company to grow our business by doing this, because it's only the fair trade system is the only system which can prove that an entire supply chain is slave-free. So it's not just the factories, it's also the way the raw materials are sourced as well. So, yeah, so we have a service. So I mentioned that we have a service called Etiko Merch, and a lot of companies, organizations have come to us and say, could you please help us source products which are made ethically, that will help us achieve the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, which will help us address the Modern Day Slavery Act. And as you can see down the bottom, you have Bank MECU, you have RMIT University, you have NGOs like Save the Planet. So this is some of the stuff that we've done for RMIT University and the Melbourne Law School. So these are good quality, fair trade certified organic hoodies. And yeah, so that's basically what we do. This is, and I think I've been talking for about 50 minutes now. So basically, what I was going to say that yeah, we're a small business who's trying to do good in this world. We're trying to make money by doing good. And you know, we've created Australia's most ethical supply chain of any fashion brand, big or small. I'm not sure how many people in this presentation consider themselves conscious consumers, people who care about their fellow human beings and the environment or animals. The big question is not just a matter of whether you're conscious, but also, are you conscientious? Do you actually practice what you preach, especially when it comes to spending your money? Because the biggest disconnection, the biggest frustration that we've got is the amount of people who talk about their commitment to sustainability and social justice, not just people, but also organisations, and don't actually do anything about it. Looking forward to answering any of your questions. It's been a bit hard talking to still images and not getting any feedback, but I'd be happy to answer any questions right now.
I have a question.
Okay, that's let me let me actually thank him. So thank you, Nick, for your nice presentation. Very informative, and you can see everyone was actually.
How do I get off the? Sorry, how do I get off the Zoom presentation? So
just stop share screen.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
You can find it somewhere. Yep. At the bottom, it says stop share screen, so you can share screen.
Yeah, okay. Sorry, just looking for it. Stop share, sure.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, we are here. So very nice presentation, and see everyone is actually listening to you, your presentation, and you really enlightened us with lots of information in this industry.
Yeah, I was worried that I may have talked too much because I think I rambled on anyway.
Yeah, it is informative. So actually, we didn't feel that it is you talk too much, but that's okay, and we would love to hear more from you as well. So, say in your business, you said being ethical. Sometimes it is really hard for different companies to become ethical, because if you become ethical, oh, we are taking lots of screenshots as well. So we'll be sending
Good.
it to
Yeah.
you. So, are you facing any challenges regarding competition? Say maybe your prices might be a bit pricey than others. Do you think so, or how you are dealing with competition in Australia?
Firstly, I don't think our products are expensive. I think a lot of other products are cheap. The reality is that people are not paying the true cost of the clothing and the footwear they're buying in Australia. The reality is that clothing in Australia, the price really hasn't increased for 30 years. And the only reason why that's actually happened is because we're able to buy clothing from people who've been exploited in countries like Bangladesh. So it's not that clothing is cheap. It's just that, sorry, it's not that our products are expensive. That it's that the unethical ones are too cheap. But in Australia, our number one selling product is our sneaker, and our sneaker looks exactly the same as the Converse All-Star. And I'm not sure how much a pair of Converse All-Stars sell in Bangladesh, but in Australia they're $110.
Yeah.
And which is the same price as we sell our sneakers. We basically sell our products at the same price as equivalent quality products. So we've done that intentionally. We don't have a very big team. I don't have a lot of overheads. I try to keep my operation very lean and mean so that we can make products affordable. And so we've got about 5,000 customers a year at the moment are buying online from us. And we're selling products around the world. No one's ever said that the products are expensive.
Okay. Yep.
They're not cheap, which is different from being, but they're reasonable value. It actually costs us around 200% more to make our sneakers than what Converse pays for theirs. But we keep them at the same price by keeping our overheads as low as possible and not being as greedy. So, we're not making huge profits, but we're not making any losses. We are a profitable business and have been for the past 6 years.
That's great.
Did I answer your question?
Yeah, sure. I got that. So, and my next question to you is, maybe lots of students will be asking the same question as well. So from yesterday, say for the last 1 year, actually, I'm trying to say in Bangladesh, we need fair trade movement as well, because I had a chance to join in a fair trade conference that happened in Deakin University in Geelong in 2016, whenever I was in my second year of my PhD. So I met lots
That's where I met you.
Yeah, in Deakin University. So after that, I worked in Latrobe University Fair Trade Committee as well. So I have lots of interest to bring fair trade movement in Bangladesh. So can you please suggest?
Well, before you do Bangladesh, what do you think the problem at Latrobe University was? Because it never happened in Latrobe University.
Maybe in Latrobe University, because I feel that for Bangladesh, say our laborers are ill-treated. So I think for Bangladesh, it would be a great start, because in Latrobe University, they don't work with production side. They actually work with the consumption side. So for Bangladesh, say fair trade movement is very popular in Africa, because they produce crops, coffees for rest of the world, and they need it because they're actually ill-treated, ill-paid as well. So that's why I don't know about Latrobe University, but
I can tell you that all the universities in Australia love talking about their commitment to social justice and sustainability, but when it comes to the crunch, they don't do anything about it.
That is my point.
They're hypocrites of the worst kind.
Yeah, whatever. So, but so if you want to bring that movement, or if you want to say if any Bangladeshi organization wants to apply for get fair trade or B Corp certification, is it very expensive, and what are the process that you actually went through?
Well, I work with 2 fair trade certified factories, and I work with both of them to become fair trade certified. And there's a few challenges for them. The cost of the fee is an issue, but not as big an issue as being able to prove that you're prepared to pay your workers a living wage. So the first question you're going to face is the factory you're working with prepared to pay a living wage to the workers? And that's a real challenge for fashion brands, fashion manufacturers in Bangladesh. When I looked at, I mean, it's been a while since I looked at what the minimum wage in Bangladesh is, but I think the difference between a living wage in Bangladesh and the minimum wage in Bangladesh is about 4 times the difference.
Yep, true.
I mean, so have you spoken to any factories to see whether they're prepared to do that? Secondly, can you find a factory which would allow a union to operate in the factory, an independent union? So, you know, in the factory in Calcutta that I work with, there are 2 independent unions. The owner of the factory also allowed activists from Italy to go to work with the workers to train them to become better union activists. So are you prepared? Is the factory you're going to talk to, are they going to allow that to happen?
Oh, we just start thinking about that for a couple of months, but
well, these are the issues. So before you even think about the fee that the factory is going to pay, you're going to have to. I think the bigger problem for them is how committed are they to paying a living wage or making the lives of the workers better. Now, I've spoken to factory owners in India who want to become fair trade certified, and they've said that, look, we can do it, we will do it, but are the companies you know in Australia prepared to pay extra
$5, $10
for us to do that?
Because
so,
yesterday we were discussing about the reason of Rana Plaza collapse. There's a movie called The True Cost, and the title is Who is to Blame? Maybe the buyer is
everyone's to blame. Everyone's
to blame. Buyer is putting pressure to the Bangladeshi garments manufacturer, and to save some money, they're going to some factory where there is not enough compliances. Accord Alliance came in Bangladesh a couple of years ago, and they actually, after Rana Plaza collapse, Accord Alliance is actually doing they're actually putting lots of pressure that you have to maintain these compliances in factories. And after 2014, after 2013, lots of Bangladeshi factories are actually they have more compliance nowadays. And
they have more compliance. But last time I looked, not one factory in Bangladesh was paying what's considered the living wage.
Yeah, that is true. They have compliance, but regarding wages, they're actually trying to. Yeah.
So if they're not paying a living wage, they're exploiting their workers.
Of course, yeah.
So, yeah, there is a fee to be paid, but I'd be encouraging. I'm not sure whether you know, but there's been a split in the fair trade movement. So you've now got Flow in Europe, but you've got fair trade certified in the USA. So you might want to talk to Fair Trade Certified USA about how they can help you become, how they can help the factory become certified fair trade.
Yep.
They're more conducive to supporting factories, while Flow is more about the raw supply chain.
True.
Did I answer your question?
Yeah, I got it. So I think one student raised his hand, Tazwar. So please go ahead. Go with your question.
So what I want
to put your camera on. I can't see you, Tazwar.
Tazwar, can you turn your camera on if possible?
And put your microphone on as well.
Okay. Oh, are you from the planet? Are you from the Mars?
No, I'm actually in outer space according to my background. So, hi Nick. So my question was that according to what you are doing, and it's a very appreciable work, that means that no sort of child labor is associated in your supply chain, right?
It's we refused, and that's the main reason why we started fair trade. Why we went into this area was we wanted to make sure that at no time was any, there would be guaranteed, 100% guaranteed, there's no child labour in our supply chain. And it's not just in the factory; it's also in the farms where child labour is a real problem. in India. It's not so much in the factories, it's actually on the farms where the real problem exists.
Right. So my question is that the only reason why children come to work is because they have to earn a living for their family, which is sad, but this is
Yeah,
the
it
true.
is.
This is the true situation of South Asia. So if you are taking away that from them, they're kind of losing their,
So, okay, I understand. I respect the question, but we've never taken the work away. Just that we've only ever worked with factories which can guarantee and farmers who can guarantee there is no child labour. It's not as if there was child labour, then they stopped it. The Chetna Organic Farmer Cooperative has never used any child labour, and we've always paid them enough to make sure that there is no child working in the farms. We actually pay them so that they actually build schools, so the children are being educated. We also pay the workers in the factories enough money so they can send their children to school. I've never been to Bangladesh, but I've been to Pakistan, India, Sri Lanka, Vietnam, Cambodia, and I've never met a family, an adult, a parent who wants their children working. They want their children getting educated. They want their children having fun. Okay, and so we've always that's been a priority for us. I mean, I've also heard brothel owners in Thailand saying, if we don't take these girls from their villages and put them into the brothel, their family's going to starve or not being able to survive.
right.
There's no excuse. Just because someone is desperate, it's no excuse to exploit them.
Right.
I mean, so instead of employing children, want to pay. I mean, there are millions of unemployed adults in India.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's not as if they can't find workers, adults to do their job. It's just that they're not prepared to pay the wages or to pay an adult to do the work.
Right. So my second question leads from that, is that sir already asked you that question and you answered it, but my question is that you said that you're not making big profits, but you're a profitable organization. But in order, I'm pretty sure you have future plans to expand your business, right? So
yeah, well, we're a for-profit, for-purpose business, and we're a social impact business. So the bigger we become, the bigger the impact that we do. So we work with 7,000 farmers in Chetna Organic at the moment. But we could be working with a lot more if we grew the business. We cannot create any positive social impact unless we're making a profit.
Yep.
There's nothing wrong with making a profit.
no. What I asked.
What's wrong is when you're making massive profit. So when a company like Nike turns over $30 billion, they turned over $30 billion. They made about $4 billion net profit. They pay their CEO $30 million, and they get caught using child labor in Pakistan. What do you call a company who does that?
Unethical.
Unethical, evil.
Yeah, right. But that's what I'm asking. But isn't it tough to compete with them? Because the sad truth is, as you said, that this is happening all around the world, and they are able to make this is one of the reasons they're able to make such big profits, right? Because they have such cheap labor. So isn't it hard to compete with them? Because they are getting caught, but at the end, they're still...
Yeah, we're not really competing with them because there is a growing consciousness amongst consumers. Young people.
Lots of ethical buyers are growing in the world. Ethical buyers.
And they're looking for a brand. They're looking for brands which are doing the right thing, but not just talking about doing the right thing, because a lot of brands are talking about it. You actually have to prove it.
Yeah.
So I'm not aiming for. The reality is that half the Australian population doesn't care about their fellow human beings. They don't care about the environment. They don't care about animals. Okay, what they care about is wearing the coolest brands or buying the cheapest prices. We're not aiming at those people. We're aiming for that the other half of the population who does care about their fellow human being, not just their fellow human beings in Australia, but their fellow human beings around the world.
Right. So one last thing, I've seen your website, the Jitna Sports. I'm a professional cricketer myself. So I went onto your website, sir, but I couldn't find any cricket bets or any cricket sort of activities.
Yeah, well, the problem I've got is I've only got enough money to do one brand properly, and we're focusing on Etiko. But we are looking for investors for both our brands to help scale them up. We could do a fair trade cricket bat. I know how to do it. I've found the raw materials. I've got the factory, but at the moment we just don't have the money to do both brands. But yeah, I hear you.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Then is there anyone who want to ask questions to Nick?
I would like to ask some questions.
Yes, I would like. Okay.
So can you please turn on your camera and audio? Yep, we can see you.
Hello, Nick. My dad owns a factory, and I never really thought about this unethical stuff all that deep before. And I've been thinking about it after I saw your presentation. My dad owns a factory, and I would like to know what qualifies a factory for you to consider them to be one of your suppliers. And about the wage thing, it's not like factories are owners of the factories are taking away money from the employees. It's very hard because we're not getting paid enough as well. And most of our profits go to banks. And so
I should point, sorry, Nuri, I totally respect what you're saying, but I actually addressed this just before, and I actually said that in order for your family to pay workers living wages, the companies from the overseas customers have got to pay a proper price.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what would be a way for us to get out of this rat race of multinational companies not paying us enough?
No way. You can go ahead.
You've got to find businesses like ours.
Exactly. How do I find them? And like, what would qualify me to be a part of those companies?
Well, so for example, you've got to be able to prove that the workers have a living wage, that unions are allowed to operate in the factory, that you're prepared to meet the fair trade standards for safety, and that you're prepared to address gender bias. I'd encourage you to contact Fair Trade USA, Fair Trade Certified USA. They've got a good team who work with factories to help them become Fair Trade Certified, but they will help you also find potential customers.
You just
Thank you.
Okay, next question.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I hope I answered your question, Nuri.
Yes, sir. You did.
Any other question?
Yes, sir. I have a question.
Yeah.
Which one? Who's it? Sorry, I can't. It's Rifat.
Hello, Nick. I'm Rifat.
Hi, Rifat.
First of all, I would like to congratulate you that even though you've ensured workers' rights, you've also been price competitive with a global brand like Vans. So congratulations to you on that. So since you have found your advantage, which is keeping overheads low, so I would like to give you Bangladesh's scenario, and I would like your suggestions on how we can overcome this. So in our country, the minimum wage is around $100. And our minimum wage is mostly dictated on the garments industry because that's a huge industry that makes like $30 billion in exports every year. So that mostly dictates our minimum wage. And currently there are around 4,000 garments factories, and actively there are like 1,800. And because of the coronavirus situation, a lot of them have shut down. Every day they are shutting down because I hope you've seen that a lot of international brands like Walmart and Sears and others, they're not paying our workers, and they're giving their stuff back because they're not being able to sell them.
Sorry, I was going to say it's criminal what they've done.
Yes.
They're cancelling the orders.
There's been some awareness in Australia about what's happened, but the reality is it hasn't been widely discussed. But because I work in the industry, I follow it with interest, and I think they're criminal. They've made billions of dollars.
Even
they've made billions of dollars profit. They've made billions of dollars of profit from the exploitation of workers and factories in Bangladesh. But when it comes to a difficult situation, they just abandon you.
Yeah,
yes, exactly. There have even been discussions online. I have seen the trending hashtag pay up, but nothing really accounted to it, and no
No,
change
because
was made.
the people who kind of follow that pay up are only a small niche activist group. It's not the mainstream. So I think the workers in Bangladesh need to be maybe make more noise, engage celebrities to promote the cause, and encourage. It'd be great if you get some famous celebrities to get behind the pay up campaign.
And that's one issue.
I've certainly tried to raise awareness in Australia, but we're a small company.
Okay.
But it'd be great if you could actually do a small video that we could share with our community and with the fair trade community in Australia.
That's a good idea. That's a good idea.
Even 2 or 3 minutes. It doesn't have to be a long one.
Yeah.
So we have about 20,000 people who get our newsletter every month now, and we have about 50,000 followers on social media. So it'd be good to actually have someone like yourself just talking about why it's unfair and what impact it's having.
That's great. So Nick, it is 7:15 already. So when do you need to get out from your office?
10 more minutes.
Okay,
I'm happy to answer a few more questions.
So is there anyone who want to ask questions? Nick can stay with us 10 more minutes.
What about any of the ladies in the room?
Ladies work in fashion industry. Is there anyone who is working with fashion industry? Or
Even if they're not working in the industry, as long as they like fashion. Yeah.
Lady Sandra, any questions from the ladies?
Okay.
No.
If there's no ladies. Any more questions from anyone? Okay.
So roughly 75 students are present today, Nick, and that's really good number, I think. So I think all the credit goes to Zoom, internet, because with the help of internet and Zoom and other platform, we are quite lucky to get you in our class. And in that,
yeah, well, it's actually last week I did a presentation to Deakin University students.
Oh, that's great. So, yeah.
I've actually been asked to give a presentation to University of Athens, and also one of the universities in Colorado. So with Zoom, I'm doing presentations for university students. But I was going to mention to you that I actually looked at, I Googled University of Dhaka hoodies.
We have that as well.
And I'd like you to actually have a look at how the hoodies at the University of Dhaka are being sourced. Are they ethical or eco-friendly?
I think not eco-friendly, but so in Dhaka, our garments manufacturer actually developing one new type of cotton, which is called jute, which is made of 60% jute and 40% cotton, which is very warm. And in Canada, it has high demand because they need something which is very warm to wear. So jute is actually getting lots of priority. Lots of people we're making jackets, clothes as well by this jute. And normally, if you actually source cotton,
can you see the screen?
Yep.
Or can you see my screen?
Yeah. We can see your screen as well. Yeah.
Okay. There's no mention of it being eco-friendly or ethically made.
No discussion, because for the last couple of months, for the last 2 weeks, we are talking about these ethical things for ethical fashion. So maybe in future, you can see something like that. It is ethically sourced, ethically produced, or it is your certification, halal. Who provides the
So this was my company before I started Etiko. It was called we changed the company. The brand has always been Etiko, but my company was called ESP.
2007. Oh.
Yeah. So we were the first halal certified sports and fashion brand in the world. Did you have any questions about that halal certification? Since I thought some of the students would have asked me about that.
Mostly halal certification is mostly needed for food, but in clothes, lots of people say there are lots of perfume which are halal perfume as well. It has high demand, and Malaysia and Indonesia they're producing this sort of halal perfumes, and in Bangladesh they have branches as well, halal perfumes.
Yeah, well, we at the World Halal Forum, they actually presented our case about whether fashion could be halal. And they said it's not just the food you ate, it's the way you lived your life. So it was an interesting discussion. But now in the UK, there's actually quite a few fashion brands which are halal certified in Europe. Anyway.
That could be another point as well, to attract more Muslim customers. Halal certification might be interesting.
Well, I've met scholars from Muslim scholars who've told me that fair trade is totally in line with halal values.
Yeah, of course it is. So fair wages. It means other than cheating them. So if you don't pay them enough wages, it is haram. If you pay them,
and if you hurt your workers, if you abuse them, that's haram as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So fair trade, B Corp certification, that actually works on the value of halal. Nagarik. So I think one of our students, because this is not Dhaka University logo, but they're just using some photos of Dhaka University. Dhaka University is 100 years old university where I work. So 100 years old. It was established in 1921. So in this photo, you can see lots of sculpture, I cannot see properly, but lots of things are there in the photo. Dhaka University logo is not there. Just name is there, University of Dhaka.
I'll be interested in having a talk to them as well.
It just say 1,200. So I bought one hoodie from Latrobe University. It cost me, I think 60 or 70. I cannot remember now. 70 Australian dollars, right? In Latrobe University hoodie.
Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah.
So it is 20 Australian dollars. 1,200 Bangladeshi taka is 20 Australian dollars. But if you want to make it in a bulk scale, it could be maybe $7-8 maximum. $7 to $8 maximum. Okay, Nick, thank you very much. I think it is curfew over there in Melbourne. Thanks for joining us.
Okay, just finally, I'd appreciate it if the students, if they could like our Facebook page and follow us on Instagram.
Yep.
And maybe even sign up for our newsletter. And if you want to communicate with me, just
yeah. And in your newsletter, actually, we can contribute. Our students, they can contribute. If they want to contribute, they can send write-ups as well. So
yeah, if they want to write something,
can we contact Nick directly as well if we need any help or for future ventures?
Depending on what you might need help with, I might be able to help. But was it something specific that you wanted to ask me?
Not now.
Okay.
Maybe later.
This is Tondra. Tondra is okay.
Tondra.
Okay.
Yes.
Tondra. So thank you, Nick. Thanks for joining us. And we're inviting you to visit Bangladesh as well. I have lots of friends, lots of family as well. My uncle is doing garments business. He has a factory.
I would have come this year if it wasn't for this current pandemic, but maybe next year. But I do want to come across there very soon.
Yeah,
in regards to getting advice on becoming Fair Trade certified, I'd encourage you to contact Fair Trade Certified in the USA and start the process. Even just make some dual inquiries about the fees. I'm sure they're very flexible with the fees as long as they know that the factory is serious about becoming Fair Trade certified.
So
I'm not aware of any factory in Bangladesh being certified Fair Trade. I've also been interested in looking for worker-owned cooperatives in Bangladesh.
Yeah, so I think because for applying Fair Trade, we need to have a factory, but we are students and we are academics. I think we should initially start the Fair Trade movement. So in different universities, we should raise voices on behalf of the laborers. So Fair Trade movement and Fair Trade clubs can be a great start for us. So ultimately, we can create a pressure group. So our factories might be more interested because I think in Bangladesh, they will not apply for the Fair Trade because if they have chances to pay poor wages to the factory, they will take the benefits. And in that case, the movement should start. So I think from this class, with say 80 students, I will start the Fair Trade movement. In India, they have Fair Trade affiliation organization, but in Bangladesh.
Yeah, there's fair trade communities in India as well. I was actually, when we started fair trade in Australia, and I was actually surprised by how many people in India were contacting us and asking us why they can't buy fair trade products in India.
So if we start that in Bangladesh as well, I think if we can create a demand from the consumers, because as we said, consumers are becoming more ethics oriented, ethics conscious. So ultimately,
there's about 75 people in this presentation.
Yeah.
The question is how many people in this presentation consider themselves conscious consumers who care enough to start asking for ethical alternatives.
Yeah. We can actually do a poll now in Zoom. Say, just give me a moment. Do you think yourself as an
We're also looking for videos about people talking about what they think of Etiko. So if you can send us a video with the camera horizontal when you're taking it, we could include you in some of our marketing.
Wow, that's great.
Okay, I better go now. Thanks for your time.
Just one more second.
Yes. Yep.
We're running, and let me. Do you think you're sort of ethical conscious? How to run the poll? Save. Okay, I'm just launching a poll so everyone can actually give a vote. Do you think yourself as an ethical consumer? So I'm launching the poll. Just give I am or I am not. So just vote.
And be honest. And be honest.
Try to be honest. Don't try to make Dick happy.
Yeah.
Be honest with the answer. There is no mark for that.
Maybe we should have asked them, are you interested in becoming an ethical consumer?
Okay, so maybe in that case it will be 100%. So far, this is so far. How do you think yourself as an ethical consumer? And maybe I can create one more question. In that case, everyone wants to be an ethical. I think that might be. So still, I am 60%. We are say lots of people are giving vote. 37 people say they're ethical consumer. While they buy, they actually think about whether it is sourced. In that case, actually, we can run different awareness campaign as well. So our students say awareness. In Bangladesh, no one talks about ethical things, ethical consumer, ethical fashion, ethical food. So I think if we can, from this class, if we can start that conversation, ultimately our garments manufacturer, they will be considering that issue as well.
Well, you know, in Australia, how long we've been talking to students about ethical consumerism.
It will take time. So, Sumaya, 64 out of 75, 64% people gave vote. So should I end the polling now? Anyone? Okay.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, that's okay.
Okay, you can share results. You can see the results in your screen. Can you see the screen? Can you see the results, Nick?
Yep, I'm very happy. Yeah.
Yeah, 43%, 66% says the ethical. So ultimately, the movement starts today. Ethical movement.
Maybe another question would be, when was the last time you purchased something which you knew was ethically made?
In Bangladesh, actually, it is really hard to say because in Bangladesh, we don't know actually whether it is ethically made because no company advertise that we are we produce that product ethically. Maybe next time. Maybe next time.
Maybe you can be the distributors of the Etiko brand in Bangladesh.
Maybe, yeah. There is lots of opportunity as well in Bangladesh. And
cool.
Could be.
Okay, I've got to go. Thanks for your time, everyone.
Thank you very much.
And stay safe. Stay safe.
Stay safe as well. Thank you. Thank you very much. Sure. Okay, so it is recording as well. So okay, then thank you very much, সবাইকে. আমাকে ছবিগুলো পাঠিয়ে দিয়েছো, থ্যাংক ইউ ভেরি মাচ অ্যাজ ওয়েল।
আর ইমেলটা চেক করেন।
অফ কোর্স
ওকে।
আর আমরা আমাদের তো এক্সাম নেওয়া দরকার। তোমাদের ক্লাস সিটি 1 হয়েছে?
স্যার আপনি বলেছিলেন সিটি 1 23 তারিখে নেবেন, কিন্তু স্যার কোয়েশ্চেন প্যাটার্নটা বলা হয়নি।
আচ্ছা, কোয়েশ্চেন প্যাটার্ন হচ্ছে এমসিকিউ থাকবে, ট্রু ফলস থাকবে, আর থাকবে হচ্ছে কিছু অ্যানালাইটিক্যাল কোয়েশ্চেন। আমরা কয় চ্যাপ্টার পড়েছি? চ্যাপ্টার 1 2?
ইয়েস স্যার।
তাহলে চ্যাপ্টার 1 2 থেকে এমসিকিউ, ট্রু ফলস, আর হচ্ছে দুই একটা অ্যানালাইটিক্যাল কোয়েশ্চেন, যেগুলা জাস্ট মানে অ্যানালাইটিক্যাল কোয়েশ্চেন।
স্যার এগুলো কি গুগল ফর্মে হবে নাকি?
হ্যাঁ, গুগল ফর্মে দিব। গুগল ফর্মে থাকবে।
স্যার বোথ সেকশন একসাথে নাকি আলাদা? যেদিন
পরীক্ষার দিন একসাথে।
স্যার একসাথে হলে রবিবারে নিয়েন, কারণ সোমবার আমাদের রিটে ক্লাস থাকে, ক্লাস করে, এবং স্যার ওই স্যার কোঅপারেটিভ না স্যার, উনি একদম পছন্দ করে না।
আচ্ছা, তো এটা হচ্ছে পরীক্ষা হবে 10 মিনিট কোন এক ফাঁকে।
রাইট স্যার, তো নীলে স্যার রবিবারই নিয়েন স্যার।
রবিবার হলে 23 তারিখ।
তো রবিবার তো 23 তারিখ, রবিবার তো
23 তারিখে তো বলেছে।
হ্যাঁ
23 তারিখে এক্সাম হবে, এমসিকিউ, ট্রু ফলস, আর জাস্ট অ্যানালাইটিক্যাল কোয়েশ্চেন।
তো স্যার আমাদের মেইন হলো বই থেকে সব।
হ্যাঁ, বই তো আছে দেওয়া, চ্যাপ্টার 1 and 2, ঠিক আছে।
ওকে স্যার।
ওকে, মানে ক্লাসে কোন এক ফাঁকে নিয়ে নিব আর কি পরীক্ষাটা, 20-25 মিনিট লাগে করে। বাট সবাই অন টাইম আসবেন, ওই দিন চেষ্টা করবেন।
স্যার তাহলে কি 23 তারিখে স্যার আমরা সবাই 2টার দিকে জয়েন করব? দুই সেকশন একসাথে।
হ্যাঁ 23 থেকে 2টা দিয়ে জয়েন করবেন। তারপরে আমরা একটু প্রথমে কতক্ষণ একটু ব্রিফিং দেব কিভাবে পরীক্ষা কি করবেন, তারপরে হচ্ছে আমরা পরীক্ষাটা নিয়ে ফেলবো। সবাই চেষ্টা করব জাস্ট ট্রাই টু জয়েন ফ্রম ল্যাপটপ অর ডেস্কটপ। আর যাদের না থাকে তাদের তো উপায় নাই, মোবাইল থেকে করতে হবে, মোবাইলে টাইপ করতে হবে, ঠিক আছে।
ওকে, থ্যাংক ইউ স্যার।
ওকে স্যার।